Let's try that. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms. Lay down last night, Lord, I could not take my rest. Lay down last night, Lord, I could not take my rest. My mind was wandering like a wild geese in the west. The sun will shine on my back door someday. Yeah, the sun don't shine on my back door someday. March winds will blow all of my troubles away. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms. I wish I was a headlight on a northbound train. I wish I was headlight on a northbound train. I'd shine my light through the cool Colorado rain. I'd rather drink muddy water, sleep in a hollow log. I'd rather drink muddy water, sleep in a hollow log, than stay here in Bristol and get treated like a dirty dog. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. I know you are gonna miss me when I'm gone. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms. Tag. Gonna miss your baby rolling in your arms.
Stopped it a little.
Huh?
I stopped mine a little earlier than you did.
I probably held on to it too long. I was kind of liking that riff.
Please don't hear any of this, Brad.
And Dad's like, I got the fuck out of there. I was like, oh man, you didn't partake?
Do you fear death?
Oh, one of the greatest lines of all time.
I
Very
could have to
underrated.
it. I could have to it.
Terminator 2020.
Making me 30 signs of red song.
Listened so much. Are you
That needs to, motherfucker.
Coach? Episode 76. Thank you so much for coming on.
Spirit of 76.
Spirit of 76.
Good to be here.
I've been looking forward to this. We were just talking about, I just gave you an antiquated piece of medium there, a CD.
Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here thinking if I have something that'll play it. I do
I
have
know,
an external.
right?
I do have an external drive. I think it'll be good, and I can get it downloaded from there.
That was one of the first times I felt old. I was giving a kid a CD, and they were like, I don't have anything to play this. And this was years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all digital now. It's all streaming, which is nice. It's convenient, but I like a physical media.
That's right. But the return to vinyl is kind of freaking me out.
Isn't that weird?
I'm going, what is going on here? Because we were so freed up to get away from vinyl.
Right.
And I still have probably 300 or 400 albums in the closets that I've converted.
You still have all your...
I've recorded them all onto digital.
Have you?
I've physically recorded them all.
Really?
So
That's
what
kinda neat.
I can play is complete with scratches.
Right.
But getting back into vinyl, I have no desire really.
No.
Everybody says you can do this, you can do that. I'm going, well, but I remember getting away from it.
Yeah, same here. I think it's the people I know that are into it are quite a bit younger than me even, so I think it's probably something that, even nostalgic for me. I didn't like vinyl. I didn't have to when I was a kid listening to my dad's records, I didn't like having to flip them and all that. I thought the cassette tape was annoying too with the rewind. The CD was perfect, solved all your problems. Skip to whatever track you want.
I don't have a dislike for it. I do have a soft spot for vinyl because I did learn to play guitar
Well, sure.
to vinyl because that's all we had.
That's all you had, yeah.
I do remember lifting the needle up and down to transcribe lyrics.
Yeah, that was kind of a pause
Oh
feature.
my gosh! And then you wanna go through a trip. Do Hank Snow's "I've Been Everywhere"
Yeah.
that way, with all those cities and towns.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So, where did you grow up? when
Well, I
you were
grew up
young?
in Bryan, Texas.
Okay, I knew you were down in Texas.
Bryan and College Station are twin cities. College Station is where Texas A&M is. It's
Right.
about 3 hours east of Austin,
Right.
below Waco, about an hour and a half, kind of between Waco and Houston.
Okay.
And went to school there through ninth grade. And after ninth grade, I went up to Arlington to live with my dad, and went to high school and college in Arlington.
Okay.
So that's where I grew up.
And where'd you go after that?
After college,
yeah, after college.
Brownsville, Texas. My first
Into
job.
Brownsville. Okay.
My first job. I was looking for a job all around, coaching job, all
Yeah.
around the Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area, and that's a lot of high schools. And nowadays it's that times 4 or 5.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
many with the population, so much growth. But I looked for a job all around, and one of the things I got, I don't know if I got it in the mail, but I heard of it somewhere that down in Brownsville, Texas, they hired a lot of teachers and coaches every year, had a high turnover. Well, I was in the Arlington, Fort Worth area looking for a job, couldn't find one, didn't have one, and I got an opportunity to go be a camp counselor in Colorado
Really?
for a summer. I said, I'm going to Colorado. I'm
Okay.
tired of messing with this.
Yeah.
While I was in Colorado, I got a letter from a principal in Brownsville, Texas saying, you want to come to work?
Yeah.
I said, yes.
Yeah. What was that Colorado trip like?
It was awesome. I was a
Was that your first
horse-
time there?
Yeah. No, well, not my first time, but my first time there as an adult by myself,
Okay. Nice, yeah.
as a college grad.
I've never been to Colorado.
But I was a counselor for a bunch of kids. I was an assistant horseback wrangler.
Really?
So I got to ride horses in the mountains
Did you
all
grow up
day,
with
every day.
horses in
Huh?
Texas? Did you guys grow up around them?
Not too much. Me, my uncles and cousins all had horses, and I'd ridden.
Right.
I could ride. I could
Yeah.
saddle and unsaddle. And
Yeah. Yeah.
feed and whatever. But I wasn't a horse person, but I had enough ability to ride that they said, and I was tall and looked good in a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I believe you
And
would.
I did wear boots all the
You
time.
look
So
like
they
you'd
said-
fit right in
they
on
said,
Yellowstone, Coach.
They said you could be a wrangler, and there was a couple of people with experience, and
Yeah.
I got in there and helped them, and it didn't take me long to really like it.
Yeah, I bet.
But anyway, Yellowstone. I don't know if I'd fit in there. They talk rough.
There's some
They
tough
talk
dudes.
rougher than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could
certainly.
ride with some of those. I could probably ride with all those actors.
Yeah. Yeah. Taylor Sheridan's pretty good. I didn't realize he was until I got into the show that he was legit, really into that stuff.
Well,
It's pretty
I
wild.
think he's a native Texan, isn't he? he
Yeah,
not?
I think so. Pretty sure.
I mean, there's
At least that's where he's.
rodeo's big down there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's big around here.
Well, what? So, how'd you end up getting up here into Farmington, Arkansas? Because that's obviously where I met you. I was just looking through the yearbook before you got here. '88 was the year I was in kindergarten. You were there then. So, what year did you come?
I came in '84,
Okay.
and my wife was from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and she got tired of the snow. She had some cousins in College Station and went to live with them.
Huh.
We met in 81, married in 82. And in 1982, my wife's dad decided to sell the dairy farm, been in a family for generations,
Mhm.
and moved down south somewhere to get his wife, my wife's mother, out of the cold because rheumatoid arthritis had her bedridden.
Really?
She was in bad shape.
Ouch.
And they said the only way, and she was like late 30s, early 40s, pretty young.
No kidding. Jeez.
And to get her out of the snow, they scouted around, decided on Rogers, Arkansas, 1982, a few months after our wedding, and we came up here several times over the next couple of years, visited, and just loved the area.
Really?
And the attraction of the area, the decreased cost of living,
Sure.
and the ability for Cindy to be near her mom and help her mom.
Sure. That's a great thing too.
Just said we were up here on a spring break trip, and we said, why don't we just move up here?
Yeah.
Because it's really nice. And don't have the heat of Texas.
Sure.
Don't have the snow of
Yeah.
the cold of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
We can be a day's drive from either place family wise.
Sure.
Go down to Texas, go up to Wisconsin within a day. Why don't we just move up there? So we did. 1984. We moved up here after the school year was over in May of '84, and I was able to secure a job in Farmington in the fall of '84.
And that worked out pretty
And
well.
it worked out real
Is it
well.
40
years later, I retired.
years?
Yeah.
That's incredible, Coach.
Yeah.
How do you even I mean, as somebody who sees a group of kids every year, how do you even separate it all? It seems like that's such a vast amount of time, but I'm sure you have tons of memories and remember so many players. Does it just seem
I
like
wish I remembered as many as I can't remember. It's
sure?
frustrating
Well, sure.
when I see them in town and they'll say, "Hey, coach," and
Yeah.
I'll say, "Man, you got to help me out."
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you're dealing with so many kids.
And they all forgive me. They all know that we put on weight and grow facial hair and change our appearance, and
Sure.
coach looks the same
yeah.
with a few more wrinkles.
Well, what got?
But
what was
you
it?
work day to day. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't think about years. You don't think about 20 years or
No,
40 years or
certainly
30.
not.
You just work day to day. You just try to.
But it's hard
You don't
for
realize when all those years slip by.
But you are a very important role model in my life, and whether I communicated it to you or not, but you were somebody I looked up to, or was a very positive male role model for me. And you magnify that times hundreds of kids, and you don't really even know necessarily unless somebody says something like that. Which is, I've been so excited to see you. I always think of you, especially in the musical vein, certain guitar stuff. So where'd the guitar come in? How'd that, like, you've been playing since you were pretty young?
Yeah, I probably picked it up when I was about 10. And I don't really know. And again, it's been so many years, it's hard to remember
Yeah.
what I did when I was 10 years old. But
Yeah.
I know my mother rented a piano, decided she could teach me piano. She wasn't a person that played out in church or played out, but she had a little experience on the piano.
Sure.
And rented a piano, and I practiced a little bit on it. But my grandmother had a guitar hanging on the wall, and once in a while she'd get it out and lay it across her lap like a slide guitar, like a lap steel,
Like a steel.
and play
yeah.
it with a bar.
Are
with
you
a steel,
serious?
Steel guitar bar, and she
Huh.
would pick and pluck and slide, and I thought she was good, probably
Just a regular acoustic,
just a regular
laying it
acoustic
flat.
guitar,
Huh.
and that's my earliest memory of anything in a guitar in any of our family, with any of our relatives.
Really?
But I think that one day, after we'd had that piano a couple months, I pulled a guitar that I had been given for Christmas out of the closet, and there was a Mel Bay instruction book, and it had in the beginning of it how to tune a guitar to a piano. So I took the guitar into the piano, and I plucked around with it and adjusted the tuners, and I got it where it sounded like the notes on the
Yeah.
piano, and that's where I discovered I have a decent ear for tone
Sure.
or notes. And I played a G chord. I just strummed it, and Brad, is the most beautiful thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
I remember that feeling,
Yeah.
and I was hooked from then on. I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah. You
But I was
stayed
probably
with it.
about, I don't even know how I was. I've always said about 10 years old. maybe 11.
I
maybe
used to
9.
love it when you'd get the guitar down at the end of a class and just jam out a song, man.
Just-
I thought that was
just,
so cool.
And then playing along with records. We had mom and dad. All my family had record player, and I had
Yeah.
a cousin that played guitar, and we played together a little bit. But and I really learned how to. I didn't really have lessons, but I learned a lot watching Saturday Night TV. I used to have a
Really?
lot of music shows on
Oh,
Saturday.
yeah, certainly.
Buck Owens had a show.
Yep.
The Wilburn brothers had a show. Billy Walker had a show. I remember Porter Wagner.
Yeah.
And all those guys standing there playing guitar, and you could see their chords because they didn't do much with cameras back then. They
Yeah,
just
no,
showed
certainly.
the guy singing, you know.
I actually prefer it like that.
and you could actually see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of
Same.
discovered something here and there, thinking, oh, that's how you change keys, or that's how
Mm-hmm.
you adjust the chord to the beat of the song, or whatever. There's a lot of that. A lot of learning watching an old Johnny Cash show and the Glenn Campbell show.
Seems like music was a much more prevalent part of society and culture back then too than it is now. I don't know. Or it seemed like more people were into the same music. It's so fragmented now. There's so many genres and subgenres. We're not all listening to the same radio stations. Heck, most people don't even listen to radio stations. You know.
You can choose what you.
Yeah, and you can listen to a channel that's just nothing but screamo death metal. You know, and that's it. It's just interesting because music was so.
When you watch the Grammys or you watch the Oscars, you realize there's a little bit more to it than that. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
still,
certainly.
you still get a. We took the grandkids to a ballet in Little Rock last Christmas, about a year ago.
Yeah,
There's still the different classical types of music, and people
certainly.
still do it.
Certainly. Oh,
But-
of course.
I don't know. It's just, it was interesting to me last week. We went to the movie about Bob Dylan.
Yeah. How was that?
It was an awesome movie, and I'm not going to tell you anything about it because
Yeah.
I want you to go
I
see
am
it
going to see it
and
eventually.
enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it just reminds me of a period of history, and there's several of these you could point to that nobody got to live through before, and nobody will get to live through since.
Yeah.
In the transition of how people think about music, about culture, about protest, about politics. And you put that all together, and then you get a lot of what Bob Dylan was all about.
Yeah.
And I never was a big fan of Bob Dylan until the last 10 years or so. And I started kind of getting into his lyrics and his songs, and still don't think he sings very good. But
No, I
when I hear
won't ever
his
think
songs
he
sung
can.
by people that sing, I'm a fan.
Well, that's the same way with me. I love Dylan's music when other people perform it.
Mhm.
He just couldn't execute it.
And we're not alone in that.
No, not at all.
But when I watched that movie, I was reminded of the '60s, and I was a kid in the '60s.
So what year were you born?
56,
Okay.
same year as rock and roll.
Yep. Pretty much. Yeah.
That's in one of my songs. The '60s, you know, getting away from and the movie is good about showing getting away from the folk
Right.
tune,
Right.
and the folk kind of got away from the country.
Right.
And all of it came from the bluegrass,
Sure.
you know, and the gospel
Mhm.
origins. But when you got the folk into the rock and roll,
Yeah.
that's what that movie kind of reminded. And those people got to live through that as an adult. I was a young
Yeah.
kid, so I mean, but a transition like that may not ever. I guess maybe hip hop would be a parallel to that 40 years
Kind
later.
of. Yeah. In a way, it was the last real new, and then they just started merging hip hop and metal and just kind of.
Metal would be a transition, but the transition is what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
no,
and,
for
and that's
sure.
what's kind of unique
sure.
to live through.
Yeah.
The transition of farm families to urban, the transition of
Yeah.
agriculture to industrial,
Certainly.
the transition from making your own living in your own garden with your own animals to being a service, you know,
Yeah,
hiring out
absolutely.
somebody else. There's just transitions that
Yeah.
that movie just reminded you of, and
Well, that's powerful.
gives you a lot to think about.
Did you watch the one they did on Queen?
No, this no.
I don't know if it was
The
same-
lead singer,
Yeah,
Freddie
the-
Mercury,
yeah.
the biography. Yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
watched that one.
How'd you like that one?
It was good.
Yeah.
I didn't get the same deep thoughts.
Right,
that
right.
I'm kind of expressing now as I did from the Dylan, because, you know, there was, you know, Queen was a great rock and roll band, and they had great talent, and those guys could play any style of music they wanted.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of bands that did that.
Right.
There are not too many that did what Dylan did in the transition from folk to rock.
He's definitely an outlier, for sure. Who were your main influences as you started really getting older and really getting into music as a serious thing?
As a songwriter and a guitar player, in teaching, learning how to play, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard,
Okay.
Buck Owens, Hank Snow, Hank
Sure.
Williams.
Yep. The goats.
The classics. And then in becoming a more modern type, Jimmy Buffett.
You've always loved the Buffett.
Buffett, Gordon Lightfoot,
Yep.
telling stories, using different keys,
Mhm.
changing the pattern of your song to catch people off guard
Mhm.
or to get attention. That kind of stuff from those kind of artists, and those weren't the only two. But,
Yeah.
And then 30 years later, big fan of Robert O'Keefe,
Yeah.
the Red Dirt music
Yeah,
scene, and a lot of these guys that are coming through now are kind of sounding more like Nashville country than Texas country. But
Sure. When did
Robert
you really
O'Keefe.
start writing?
There's two of those. Back in the 80s, I kind of got interested in it and pursued it a little bit. But then I had kids and everything gets put on the back burner.
It gets
I mean, I
Yeah,
did taxidermy. I did a lot of woodwork. I had all kinds of hobbies. And then you have kids.
right.
Now you have no time.
Yeah.
Now you have one or
Yep.
two little hobbies, and then you have kids.
Sure. Yep.
But about 12, 15 years ago, I got really back into it with a fire.
Yeah.
And just, I wrote probably a couple of hundred songs. I probably could look in that iPad right now and pull out about 100 that I could point to.
So-
but I really, about 15 years ago, got back into
So
it.
15 years. So after a long time of being away from
Yeah.
really doing it,
Yeah.
did you feel like it was the first time, or did it kind of come to you pretty quick?
Pretty quick. Because once something hits you, you just can't rest till you get it done.
No, you can't, sir. And that's an obsession that only a songwriter can understand. When you get that thing, you got
Yeah.
to see it.
You
see
got
it
to see it through. And
John Lennon had a great quote to the effect of, "If you save the song till later, you won't ever finish it." And of course, they didn't have the technology we had back then. Now I can just record on my phone. But
then-
there's still something to be said about doing it right then when it hits you.
Yeah, whether you do it on the phone or in a notepad or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
As long as you, because a lot of times when you say I'm gonna come back to it, even if you do come back to it, you can't remember.
You've
that
lost
feeling.
the space you were in,
Yeah,
that mental
yeah.
feeling. Yeah, 100%. I
So
agree.
when you get it, but the good thing about the whole thing, even if you do lose it, you're still kind of in that mode of looking for hooks, looking for stories, looking for intriguing ideas.
Yeah.
And I spent about 6 or 7 years, probably in the 2000s, maybe the early teens,
Yeah.
that I was just, man, getting these ideas left and right. Man, I just was on fire. Wrote a lot, and then I enjoyed writing because I actually, with the computer age, became pretty good in using Sony and GarageBand and these things, and you could actually record yourself and put a band together,
Yeah.
just you in the studio, just
Yeah.
you in the computer,
Yep.
and that made writing more fun
Sure.
because now you could do different things with it. I could take my computer and put an orchestra with it or a keyboard. I don't even play keys.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that kind
You can make it
of
happen
lit that
nowadays.
fire a little
Yeah.
bit.
When I first started recording, now we had big DAT disc tapes, and it was still, I mean, it was early digital, but it still was going on discs. It wasn't going directly on the computer. Of course, my uncle tells me the story about the old, reel-to-reels is what they used back in the
Sure.
early 80s, and that's
Sure.
the kind of stuff he recorded on. And now you can just go and, like you said, you can make it sound fantastic for very little cost. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is. I put together several songs in the past 3 or 4 weeks that I've been pretty excited about, and I've been able to share them with. I got a buddy in Ohio that I play. That he's my lead guitar guy.
Okay, yeah.
And he plays lead, acoustic, rhythm, bass.
I
he
got
can
one of
do
those
it all.
myself, yeah.
But
They're good people to know.
He can send me tracks.
Yeah.
and I can dub them into my songs. So I've been pretty excited about getting. And he and I did, I think, 4 albums worth back about 12 years ago.
Well,
10,
how
12
many
years
albums have you recorded now?
Well, I've got 4 printed out, but I've got probably enough songs for 4 more. I just
So where are you recording all this? At your house?
yeah, at the house. Well, he and I went to East Hall Studio
Okay.
and did a gospel album of all original music. I got another group of friends that I recorded an album with at Sun Studio in Memphis,
Sun Studio?
and that was fun. That was
I bet it was
that
fun.
was big. That was
That's
kind of like
incredible.
that was kind of like BP at Yankee
That's a
Stadium.
big deal.
That was a big deal for us.
I can't, what was that like?
It was just.
You gotta tell me what that was like.
It's a
Coach.
room about this size
Really?
that you know that Elvis,
The
and
history
John,
of it, yeah.
all those guys were here,
Yeah.
and there's a guy on the other side of a glass window doing the engineering,
Yeah.
and I just said, he said, "What do you want to come out with on this?" I said, "I just want the raw tracks. I'm going to take them home, mix them, and master them myself.
Yeah.
That's all I want you to do is record everybody on their own track."
Yeah.
And we did 14 songs,
Nice.
mostly covers, but I did
What kind of band setup did you have?
drums, bass. I was acoustic and sometimes bass. We had a lead guitar player and another combination acoustic and lead
Okay.
and electric. We're just all
So you're
around
tracking
the
these
circle
live
in one room.
and just recording everything by itself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that.
And the drummer, a friend of ours from
Best
Salem
way to do it.
Springs, played on the set of drums, the house set of drums, which was left there by the band Rush.
Get out of here.
Yeah. The
That's
guy said-
nuts.
The guy said, "I'm just going to leave these here." Our engineer was Matt Ross. I'm thinking his last name, Matt Ross Sprangler.
So Neil Peart left a drum kit there, and he just left it in the room.
I didn't even know the guy's name at that time. You know, I'm more of a country guy.
Yeah.
He said the band Rush was in here and left the drum set there.
incredible.
I guess he bought a drum set in town and just left it.
You know, I'd love to get a picture of my family walking across Abbey Road barefoot.
It'd be big. It'd be big.
That's a bucket list thing for me.
know
Could you
what
imagine being in Abbey Road? Like just being in that room too. So like Sun Studios,
Yeah.
it's just one of those iconic places.
Yeah, Muscle
that,
Shoals. I mean, there's just a few
Just
things
a
that
few,
are big
yeah.
like that. Yeah, but he played that drum set, and it was just kind of, once we got going, kind of surreal. We're playing music in Sun Studio,
Yeah.
just like Elvis and Johnny and Jerry Lee did. But anyway, that was one of our albums that we put together, and then the other albums I just did in the studio on the computer.
So when you're writing, are you? Because I know as a writer, I've written every way to Sunday you can write a song. Do you have a method, or do they just happen in different ways?
Different ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think of the guitar of the
Yeah.
chord
There's no-
progression.
Right.
Most of the time, I think of a hook, and sometimes it's a whole story.
Yeah. Well, I've got a friend who's just now getting into songwriting, and they're asking me a lot of questions about it. I'm like, there's not a set method or way. It finds you or you find it in ways that are inconvenient, and sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you can lay the whole song out in 5 minutes. It writes itself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to chisel it out of the rock a little bit, and kind of work with it.
I got one right now. I've got the chorus. I just don't have the story built around it.
See, you're more of a storytelling songwriter.
Yeah,
than-
because you don't sing very good. When you don't sing very good, you got to find something else to offer.
Is that what it is? Okay.
When you don't sing very well, you gotta offer something. So
No.
I've heard
that's
myself
true.
enough recording myself to know there are limitations vocally,
Yeah, we all have.
and I thought, and I still enjoy doing it, and I still get opportunities to do it, but it's more because the stories that we tell are engaging,
Yeah, absolutely.
and nobody's going to really pay anything to hear me sing,
Right.
but I can get the song out and make you understand the story and entertain.
Sure.
There's a difference between singing
No,
and
I agree.
entertainment.
I agree.
But
If you can't sound like Robert Plant, then you gotta sell tickets somehow.
and so that's kind of why, I guess, why the interest in songwriting,
Yeah.
because they'll say, well, you could do this song. I said, yeah, that song's already been written.
See, I'm the same way.
There's already a guy done that. Or we'll be covering a song, and they'll say, well, it's like this on the Eagles album. I said, yeah, I know it. But they've already done
They've
it.
already done that. That's what I was real
What are we
resistant.
going to do? What do we got to offer?
I got very fortunate when we started playing live. I mean, I was still in high school, and we were getting to play in bars, and we didn't have to play covers. There was an original scene back then, and so we kind of got spoiled. And then as that kind of transitioned out in the late 90s and it kind of became more about covers and things like that, I didn't want to learn covers. And I was like, somebody's already done that. I don't want
Is that when you kind of bailed out of it a little bit? Did you kind of
It
take
definitely-
a hiatus away from it? Or was that linked in more to getting the family going? Or both?
Well, there's been many waves of my musical career, but that was definitely a turnoff for me. And when Durham came back out on the scene in 03, 04 is when we played our first show. I had to compromise and play covers, but we played songs we liked, played songs we loved, and I've learned that, especially teaching Walt, it's good for kids to be learning other people's stuff and to learn those tools. So I am encouraging him to learn. In fact, he listened to Aerials by System of a Down, and it's got a delayed snare hit on one beat where it should be on the beat, but he rests it for half a second and comes in. He applied it to a song we wrote a week later appropriately, but he wouldn't have learned that without hearing that song.
That's
and
kinda
knowing
exciting.
that. It's real exciting, especially as a dad. It's like he's learning, and he's also putting in the time. He's hours a day. It's what you got to do. You got to be obsessed
Yeah.
to get good at anything.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I'd sit down with a guitar, and 3 and 4 and 5 hours would just slip by, and you don't even know it.
No, you're
And
just
it's still that way.
it's just you and the instrument. Yeah,
It's still-
but I find writing to be much more fun than learning. It's valuable to learn what other people do, especially when you're young and you're absorbing all that stuff. But once you get to a point where you're confident and competent, and you can start writing, that's where the passion goes for me.
The other side of that is when you play in town, and we play in town at least once a week, sometimes twice, sometimes 3. When you play in town and you do an original song, and then you hit that chord of "Take It Easy," and
Yeah.
you got the whole house
You
going,
get that
"Oh,
pop.
I love that song!" Play,
get that
you know,
pop.
you get that reaction. You're going, "That's frustrating."
No,
But
yeah.
on the other hand, if you're entertained, we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And as a songwriter, you think, I'd rather,
do my stuff.
do
But
do
you're also
this
there to
because it's
entertain.
just as good as
They
that.
want to hear stuff they know.
But
You got to mix
y'all
it
want to
in.
hear stuff you're comfortable with, stuff you can sing along with, stuff you know. And
Yeah,
and when you're
100%.
playing in tap rooms and taverns and places like that, the more they drink, the more they want to sing.
Yep.
And so
Exactly.
playing covers is a joy. And I won't say it's not a joy. It is.
Yeah.
It's a joy to get that camaraderie with the crowd, that relationship going with
It is fun.
with that table
I've
and that
learned to
table and
embrace
that
it as
table.
well.
To me, that is fun.
Yeah.
Now, having somebody appreciate my work is fun,
Yeah.
but connecting with him in any way
Right.
is successful, and that's fun.
We also think about an original song, even the biggest hits of all time. The first time people heard them on the radio, they weren't necessarily a big hit. It was that repeat listen and wanting to hear it again and again and again. And a lot of these people are hearing your song for the first time. So they're just now absorbing it, let alone, being able to interact with it. It's if you can get people to come back and see your original stuff, it's a really good feeling.
But the more you try to do that and please the folks, the more covers you study and learn and brush up on, the farther away you get from writing.
Yeah.
Because now you realize that what you're writing is nothing but recycled what you're covering.
That's true too.
And so it's frustrating I don't listen to music.
I haven't listened to music in quite a long time.
When I listen to anything, it's usually an audiobook.
Yeah. I'm usually listening to a podcast. Yeah.
But I'm not a big listening to music, not like I was for years and
Right.
and decades.
When did you stop listening? Because I've just hit
About
that in the
15
last-
years ago when I started writing. Because when I realized the more I listened to, the worse I was at writing, I just kind of put the songs away, turn on sports radio in the car.
Yeah.
And that was another thing. When they started having sports radio in the car, then I quit listening to music.
Yeah, that changed.
and
the
then
game.
that freed up the writing ideas.
Right.
instead of stealing this from Buffett or stealing that.
So you feel
from-
like the more you listen to, the more it can influence your writing.
You can't be. It's hard to be original anyway.
Oh yeah, certainly.
And the more you listen to, the even harder it is to be original.
I find if I listen to something that I really love, if I find something that's just really fantastic, and I just want to, the Struts. Have you heard of the Struts?
No.
They're a band out of the UK. It's kind of it's like the Rolling Stones meets the Black Crowes meets Queen. They got a very British hard rock strutting around. I mean, they're called the Struts. Very phenomenal songwriters, though.
Okay.
I mean, really, really good stuff. But when I listened to them, it kind of invigorated me, and made me kind of want to start writing in that vein. You know, I want to write a song like that. And sometimes I'll do song exercises. You know, what if I remember sitting around one day? What if Alice in Chains? You know, what if I got hired to write a song for Alice in Chains or something like that? You know, what would it sound like? And so then it forces me to just try and get inside of their head. I find those to be a lot of fun. Sometimes just challenging yourself to do something that you might not normally do.
I can relate to that. And some of those can sneak into your show because you can do that. I wrote that song in a Jimmy Buffett style. You can sneak that into a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wrote that song in a George Jones style,
Yeah.
or a Robert Earl Keen style, and you can sneak those into your shows, and people will say, "Oh, that's cool. Whose song is that?" And that's a good feeling when you can say, "Oh, that's mine."
That's mine.
That happened to me a couple times last week.
Yeah.
and that's kind of a good feeling too.
I recorded me writing a song last week just as an exercise, just from the ground up. It's kind of the process. Just thought it'd be interesting. Maybe nobody will care or watch it, but it just for posterity's sake to know kind of the points. And as I was recording a demo for the song,
Okay.
and so the demo will have that finished product regardless. But usually that's all I'll ever have, not me writing it. And there's a lot more that goes into it than people realize. Sometimes I think people think if you can write a song, you just conjure it out of the air and throw it into the ether and it exists. It's a little more difficult than that most of the time. It's like once you do get an idea, do you have a process from there on? Do you like to have your verse, a chorus? Do you want a bridge? Like how do you structure your music? Do you have a favorite kind of way to do that?
That's another source of frustration a little bit because you get to where every song follows the same pattern.
Yeah, and you don't
I
wanna
don't
do that.
like to have that pattern. I'd like to answer that by just saying whatever the story needs.
Sure.
It's whatever the story needs. Sometimes I need to start with the chorus. Sometimes I need to have verse, then chorus, and get the story told before I
Yeah.
get a chorus for something to
Every
remember.
song needs something different, and the
But
song dictates.
It's just so. And then I've written songs with no bridge and no chorus, just a looping type songs that are, some of those loop songs are really popular.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's looping a chord progression or looping a whole verse or whatever. But just about all that church music's looped. I mean, it's just one. It's just like 4 or 5
Yeah.
verses of the same song.
Certainly.
When you go to church and hear music,
Especially
like
the
that.
hymns.
Yeah, the hymns.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Of. But the modern praise music will break that mold, and that's what I
it
like
does.
about that. Getting away.
Well,
from
I was actually thinking when you said start a song with a chorus, modern praise does that a lot. Where
A
they'll
lot.
start with a chorus
Yeah.
and then weave in.
and end with it, and then hammer that point home, which is good. I don't know that I have a favorite. I get frustrated sometimes that I don't have enough different.
Well, yeah,
patterns.
but I think you said you've written
But
hundreds
if you're telling
of
a
songs.
story, the pattern is secondary to making the point.
Right.
So I don't worry about it a lot.
Yeah, I tend to lean toward worrying about it. Like, have I done this before? It's like, well, I've written 1,000 songs, so yeah, I've done it probably 100 times before.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter as long as it's good.
Yeah.
But I did get through a phase where I'd overthink that, and everything had to be. You didn't want to do the same thing twice.
But if you do the same thing twice, you'll realize that all through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that's all Nashville did.
A lot of genres.
3 chords and the truth.
Yeah.
Verse,
absolutely.
chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, tag, over. thousands and thousands of successful efforts
Certainly.
have been
Yeah.
phrased just like that. So if you do the same thing twice, it's not that big a crime, and that's another comfort level.
No, it is. When you
So
get
it's
to
something
that
not to
point.
stress over.
No, I agree. I'm glad I'm past that.
Uh,
Absolutely. And there's stuff I'll go back and listen to. I'm a big fan of vetting material. I always feel like if you record something right after you write it, you're on that kind of high.
Yeah.
You know, when you first write something, I like this, but when you listen to it back 10 times, you know pretty quick I'm not going to want to spend time. Because recording is work. If you're going to record something, you better darn well like it. Because you're going to
You know what
spending a lot of time with
You
it.
know what recording is like, though, don't you? It's like painting. You can have a picture in your head, but it's only of any value as long as you have that picture in your head.
Yeah. I could say I'm
And
not a
being
painter, but yeah, I can
that's
understand
kind of,
that.
That's kind of frustrating as a musician because
Yeah.
sometimes as a musician you only have value to other people as long as you're singing.
Yes.
Once that song ends, you're another guy on the stage
Mm-hmm.
until you get another song going.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating that the musician doesn't have value other than while the music's being played. And that recording is a way to have that value preserved,
Yes.
just like painting,
Yeah.
just like building or
Yeah.
woodworking.
It's a record of it.
It's the way to have that value preserved, and there's no other way to do it. I mean, not to mention recording, it helps you learn the song.
Yeah. Oh, it makes you really
Makes you
good.
really learn it.
That's why
But,
I always like to record. Well, comedians do this a lot where they'll just go out and just work material with the crowd to see what works, what doesn't work. The songwriter's kind of doing that too. You know, you'll try out stuff live. You've got a song, and you're not even so much trying to introduce it to the audience as you are as a band trying to say, okay, we've got this down together. Can we perform it?
Mm-hmm.
And take it to that next level. And then if you can get it to the point where you can record it in a studio, you have to know every lick. You have to be, especially when you're on a budget, you don't have time to mess around. Like, we got to get this
and
quick.
redo and redo.
Yeah, you want to get in there, get a take, and move on, and do your overdubs and whatnot. Do you remember the first time you ever recorded? What was the first song you recorded, and how old were you?
I'm not even going to count playing with a tape recorder when I was a kid because
Well, that counts. Because
I'm sure I did it, but I couldn't tell you when, where, how old. I couldn't tell you what the song was. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I started. Jared Morrison got me a old Sony program
Mm-hmm.
about probably near 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and he started helping me record my albums onto digital. I mentioned
Really?
that a while ago.
Cool.
And so when I started plugging my turntable into my computer and putting my headphones on and adjusting the volumes and
Uh-huh.
recording these albums, I thought, this is cool. I
Yeah.
could put this on a disc and I could put it on a DVD and have 50 albums on one disc in my truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started doing that, I started wondering if I could record myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got started.
Really?
And Jared was instrumental in showing me how to
That's
do
awesome.
the program. Not only that, but adjusting pan, adjusting EQs, and all the different tracks where you could
So
dub
where
in
did
a
he
bass.
learn all that stuff?
He learned. Jared's a genius on software and
Yeah?
computers and stuff. I don't know how he learned all that.
Might need to have him on the pod.
Oh yeah, that'd be an
He's an
interesting
interesting
talk.
fella,
'Cause
yeah.
he could take you in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I'd like to
But-
talk to him.
But he's really good with computers and software, with hardware and software.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah.
But he kind of got me started recording albums and changing them from vinyl to digital so I could listen to them in the truck. And branching out from that, getting an instrument going, getting a microphone going, getting a drum machine, things like that. Branching out, just kind of trying to create music is how I got into the real recording.
How are you doing your drums typically?
Now I just use one of the GarageBand loops. Back then I used a Zoom little machine with a foot stomp pedal.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild. How far of drum sound? That kit over there, that Alesis kit that he uses, there's times I'll be listening back to demos and I won't know if he's playing the real kit or that kit.
Oh, you got an electronic kit over there?
Yeah, but I'll plug it into the mains, and when I'm listening back, and now we're not trying to mic it up for anything other than, just posterity so we can hear where we're messing up. It's just like watching film as a coach, right? When I was a songwriter growing up, I'd always record my band playing and then go back and listen to the song and see where we could make it better and kind of strategize and think, oh, let's move this around. So I've got hundreds of hours I recorded almost every band practice for the first 3 or 4 years, and I realized this is unsustainable. So I've got a lot of.
So you got a lot invested in storage.
They're all still on cassettes. Well, no. I've actually transferred those to, they're on my iTunes now. So entire band practices of 15, 16-year-old kids just talking and playing for 2 hours. It's pretty interesting stuff to think about what you were talking about and who you were talking about at that age. Yeah. It's some wild record keeping.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's quite a bit different for me on watching football film, because when you watch film, you're trying to break every little thing down.
Yeah.
That other coach is trying to break you down.
Oh, yeah. It's
Coaching football is.
It's a whole different ballgame for sure.
A whole different ballgame, because that guy's you're trying to beat a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of those coaches have been coaching 35, 40 years. They're hard to beat.
Right. Well, I wanted to get back to coaching, actually. So when you first started, what was your first coaching job here? That was in '84?
And my first coaching job here was, my first football job here was, I was a half-day teacher, and all I did was scout on Friday nights for Coach Holland. We didn't trade films and all that. We just had scouts go to games. And the film for trading came, 5, 6 years later, when we brought in those cassette tapes and beta tapes and things like that, VCRs. But the second year I was here, I started coaching 7th grade football, and then assisting with junior high and senior high. I mean, you coached every grade, and all the coaches coached every team then. But
and you're coaching across different sports. You're coaching about how do you manage all that and organize all that? It seems like so much to.
It's a lot, but I mean, I was pretty much a 2-sport guy: football in the fall and baseball in the spring.
Yeah.
And
how long did you coach the baseball team?
I coached the baseball team 18 years, and then I switched over to softball for 22, whatever makes up 40.
Yeah.
But I switched over to softball when my daughter was in high school.
That's pretty special, right?
Yeah, it was really cool.
I bet.
That her sophomore year was one of our state championships, so
she
got to experience a state championship.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a lot of awesome memories, but baseball. But the only time it didn't really ever conflict, because Coach Holland and I had a good working relationship. He let me take the kids about a month before the baseball season started and have the football guys in for baseball and let them get ready. And so there wasn't as much of a conflict with two or three sport guys as there used to be. And then all through the off season, when football was over, I would have a couple of baseball. I called it the baseball club. We met for hour and a half or so after school on a couple of days a week all through the winter, and practiced in the gym. But it wasn't the kind of deal where anybody's going to get in trouble if they couldn't come that day. I called it the baseball club.
Right.
If you want to come practice, we're going to be here.
Right.
And I had really good turnout, really good percentage of turnout of the guys that were going to end up being starters year after year after year. And so that was something I was able to do, because I didn't coach basketball, that a lot of coaches in our league wasn't able to do, because they went football, basketball, baseball.
Right.
They didn't have time to mess with baseball during basketball season. So we had an advantage for many years in that.
That's interesting.
And then we set up an indoor batting cage in the old gym.
Yeah.
I think we and Huntsville were the only two that had any kind of an indoor hitting facility.
Right.
But you might remember that.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Set that up across the floor of the old gym.
Oh,
with the
man,
old
I remember
volleyball
that building
poles.
well. I didn't realize, was there an upper floor in that building somewhere?
There might have been 20 years before.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Not in my memory. Not in my knowledge.
Jason Steele was talking about I think Arlene had said something about one of those
think there
buildings
was
had a
some
whole like
locker rooms
upper floor or
upstairs above
something
the
that nobody had
bleachers.
used for a long time.
Yeah. Well, those were gone what time I got.
Yeah.
And I got to Farmington the very first year that the Merle Massey gym was opened.
Oh yeah.
So that was its first year. That was
Nice.
the new gym for
The
40
new gym.
years.
Yeah.
Because the old gym was definitely an old gym, but
Well-
it had a lot of use.
Well, I've talked to some people who played against Coach Holland, and obviously people who grew up with people who played for him. But you worked with him for a long time.
About 7 years I got to work with him.
What was that like?
Well, when you worked with him, I realized, because I came out of college, I thought I was going to be a basketball guy. I was college
Well, that's ironic.
in basketball
But
the
you
whole
didn't
time.
end
I
up-
was a big time basketball
Really?
guy. Yeah, I love baseball. Baseball was my love, but as far as
Well, what's your
coaching,
number one sport?
If I'm
Right.
coaching, it's football. But if I'm watching, it's baseball.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a baseball guy.
Okay.
I can watch any game,
But
or
you,
listen, any game, any team. I can watch any game. It could be Cleveland and Seattle. I don't care. I'm going to watch.
you love the sport.
I do.
I'm that way with football.
I
so
go to
get it.
Arvest several times a year. Go to the Razorback games.
Okay.
We go to major or minor league parks all over the nation. I'm a big baseball guy.
Nice.
That's my getaway from football. But football's my
makes
job.
Oh.
Football's the work.
Yeah. Okay.
And I love the work.
Sure.
I
That makes
couldn't have
sense.
done it that long if I didn't love it.
Right.
But as far as the hobby, the baseball's the hobby.
Okay.
But when you work with Coach Holland, you realize how little football you knew. And when I worked with Coach Holland, one thing I did learn, and I appreciate him always for this, is you better learn football because football pays the bills.
Right.
In this scenario, high school coach,
Mhm.
teacher, football pays the bills. If you can be successful on the football program, then you could do this for a long time. Well, I learned very quickly that I needed to do that, and I had a guy that was patient enough with me to teach me.
Yeah.
And it was just a blessing for me to be able to work under him and with him. And I don't know, it took 4 or 5 years to actually feel like I could actually put together a defense that could beat another team. Eventually it happened,
Yeah.
but it took a while because I would bring a proposal and he'd say, "Yeah, that'd work good except for this."
Right.
And I'd say, "Oh, you're right." He knew that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a back-to-back state champion.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
So
Certainly.
when I could bring something up that would work, and he would say, "Yeah, we'll give that a shot," that's like writing that hit song.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that accomplishment. Like, hey, I'm making progress here,
Yeah.
and he would do that. Now he would not let you get the big head. He'd shoot you back down in some
Yeah.
way, but deep down you knew that he was listening to you.
Well, he's
and
obvious-
that was the
he's a-
value.
he's a
He was
legend.
listening to you.
He's a legend in these parts, obviously.
And it's because he knew how to listen to people. He knew how to talk to them, and he just seemed to always have the right response for whatever the situation was, whether it was coaching, teaching,
Right.
being a man, or being a employee, or whatever the situation. He had the right response.
You know, my dad.
A
and
lot
his-
of people recognize that.
My dad and his buddies were from Prairie Grove, so they played against him, and they talked about the discipline that Farmington had, and just the execution and just hitting harder, all those things. The football 101. That's a coach from a different era now.
Mhm.
That's a different era of football.
But different from now, he was very much in the Wilson Matthews, Frank Boyle school
Right.
of football.
He was
then.
the best there was for that era of football. I mean, that was kind of the pinnacle.
And it was football's so weird. Football,
It
back then,
evolves.
everybody was in either the wing tee or the power eye
Right.
or wishbone.
Or
It
the
was one of
wishbone.
those three.
Right.
And some of those were breeds of each other. But you knew what everybody was going to line up in. You didn't need really much scouting. You
No.
didn't need video.
Right.
You knew that the fastest guy was going to carry the ball 28 times.
Right.
You knew that the best player over there was that middle linebacker. You better block him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just knew
It was a simpler-
whether you scouted
yeah.
that team or not. They're a 5-2 or they're a 3-4 or a 4-3. They're going to line up in this. It just got down to fundamentals. Who could and
Yeah.
bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
And Alan was very good at encouraging all that stuff.
But look where that program is now. We watched. I coached sixth grade this year, and we went to a practice, and I'm watching this quarterback doing reads and check downs and all this stuff that college quarterbacks and NFL quarterbacks are doing. You know, it's so much more complicated than it was back
It
then.
has to be. Because the
But
defense
you saw. I mean, you've seen it from '84. Whenever. I mean,
Yeah.
was it? It didn't seem like it was that gradual. It seemed like it was pretty similar for a while, and then all of a sudden it just took off after the Gus Malzahn coming through here. I don't know. I feel like he changed a lot of the game.
Well, there's no doubt about that, but I would credit, I'm thinking Andre Ware, David Klingler, and the program down at the University of Houston, because Bill Yeoman at University of Houston was almost like the father of the split back veer.
Sure.
And big time option offense, built with speed, and not so much brute force like the wishbone.
Right.
Wishbone, you could send, like you played in high school, you could send 4 guys to a point now,
Yeah.
overpower
And just overpower him.
But
Yeah.
the split back veer didn't have quite the same punch.
Yeah.
Because you had to do it with speed. But when they transitioned, I remember, because I coached in Texas, when they transitioned from the split back veer to the run and shoot, and then you got some of those run and shoot type quarterbacks with, I think of Klingler and Ware as Heisman Trophy type, and then the guys at the University of Miami, Kosar and Tessa Verde, and those guys doing more reads at that level.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what Gus Malzahn brought to Arkansas at the high school level was an offshoot of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
More fast break type, taking away defensive advantage
Right.
type football.
But it was in your backyard.
But it was
You had
right
to
here
play
in our
against him.
backyard, and you had to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Because it was work. Because it was working.
Well, they were
and they would have
embarrassing
4
everyone.
touchdowns in the
Yeah.
first quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
And you're still trying to catch your breath going back to
somebody-
the huddle, and they've
somebody's
already
doing
got the next
something.
play called.
Yeah,
I
somebody's
mean, I
doing
remember.
something
Yeah.
we got to learn how to do, and we got to learn how to stop.
But nobody could do it.
It took a long time.
Nobody. I mean, I remember the first year we played, and it was just overwhelming. Immediately,
Hmm.
you knew this was something you've never seen before.
Yeah, and just sending so many receivers out, it was just something new to everybody.
And they were calling.
There's
play
always
with,
scenes.
You remember
re-
those flags?
Realize how big the football field is.
Yeah, you really do. But
Yeah.
do you remember they had those? Somebody had that pole with the flip boards on it.
Yeah, and we made one and never used it.
Did we really?
Yeah, we built one, never used it.
Yeah, I don't remember using one.
Yeah, well, we never did. I mean, we built it,
That's funny.
and it got to be that there was some debate about that stuff of how good is it really.
Yeah.
If you throw the ball 3 times and your defense has got to go right back out there, and your same kids are playing defense,
Yeah.
have you really helped yourself? And so that was the debate about that fast break style of offense versus your huddle up
Yeah.
pro style offense. You could do your defense a favor by keeping the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
If you but those guys didn't have much trouble with 3 and outs because they were so good at throwing and catching the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, it's true. It was a weird time in local football.
But
and
you
I
got to put that together with another thing changed in those days. I always said football's been ruined by round bales.
Explain that to me.
Well, back in the day, football players would get shape by hauling square bales of hay, and they'd load those hay bales up on the flat bale or the trailer.
Yeah.
Work all summer in the heat,
Yeah. Yeah.
bucking those hay bales.
Yeah.
We didn't have to lift weights. Well, although all of a sudden these run and shoot teams started getting those kids in the summer doing 7-on-7.
Yeah.
And our kids are out hauling hay.
Huh.
Well, whenever they came in with round bales, that took the kids' jobs away. Now we got them in the weight room.
Huh.
Now all that happened kind of at the same time.
That's a really interesting perspective.
You got to put the round bales on the farms in the same era as the run and shoot passing offenses in football.
that's some pretty neat historical context there.
And so now when you got those kids out on the football field in June, July,
Yeah.
and now in August, they realize all these patterns. And that quarterback spent 3 months reading 7-on-7 defensive coverages and finding those seams. Our kids are out hauling hay.
Yeah. That's a wide gap.
And hauling hay's good,
Yeah.
but it's not good for defensive backs to learn how to cover these zones.
No, no, it's not.
And people don't realize how these one segment of society affects another.
Yeah.
And we've lived through it, and I've seen it firsthand.
That's why you have such an interesting perspective. And
When
for
you got
such a long,
when you got
you
all
saw it.
these hay haulers now are out of work.
Yeah.
Now what are they going to do? Well, they're going to come to school and they're going to play 7-on-7,
Yeah.
lift weights. So football has taken off in many ways, but it's reflected American society.
You're also one of the connecting lines from the 73 team to this most recent team.
Oh no, I came in '84.
Yeah, but
Well,
you coached
I
with
coached
Coach
him,
Holland.
and we coached the same offense.
But you coached with him,
Yeah.
who won that, and then you coached up until what, last year?
Yeah,
So I mean, you saw the complete changeover of all that, the new facilities and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks professional down there.
well, I'll tell you what, our facility that we just left was really nice when it was built.
Yeah,
You know, the one that
it
you grew up
was.
playing.
I know.
I mean, there weren't too
I remember
many.
when they built
There
that
weren't
field
too many
house.
schools that had that kind of facility right there on the football field. You know, everybody else dressed in basketball locker rooms and
Yeah, no, but
PE rooms. And
what year did they build the new field house? Late 90s,
Yeah.
97, 98, somewhere.
yeah, somewhere in there.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, we clogged that toilet real soon after moving into that building. And instead of telling anybody, we just kept crapping on top of it.
Ooh,
And
I don't think I even knew that.
Coach Holland came in there after a practice one time and was yelling at us about something. And he just looks around and says, "What is that smell?" And he goes in, and we had stuffed toilet paper and stuff under the door
smell
to
in
keep
the
the
door.
smell
Oh,
from
my
coming
God.
in. Anyway, he yanks that door open, and that shit is just piled up
Oh
to the
my
top. Anyway, he has to call poor Clyde over there.
Oh my God.
This poor guy comes into that bathroom. He goes in there, and we're still in there. Coach is still talking to us, and you just hear just, we had to do some running.
Well, it
After
couldn't
that.
hurt the smell any.
We had
I
to
don't
do
think
some-
I remember that. I probably knew about it,
We
but I
got
don't
a
think I
two, and
remember
this is a new field house, and we're going to take care of it. Now, that thing is that whole field is basically a practice field for the elementary now.
Yeah, yeah,
You guys took such good care of that thing too. We had one of the best fields around.
yeah.
It's kind of the pride of around here.
It's right. That's
You
right.
know, some of those fields were pitted, and they'd sink water in them, or they'd have pits in them,
And Coach Holland was really good with the grass. He understood grass and
all you
how to
guys were.
fertilize and
You all spent a lot of
drug
time
those
on that
water
field.
hoses all summer. And I did a lot of mowing. We all did a lot of mowing and upkeep on the field. Remember when Prairie Grove people came over and round up the big P on the football field?
Yeah,
Were you in school then?
yeah. Well, I remember that story.
So we went
I
down to
don't
the
know
sod
which-
farm and got new sod and replaced. So we had a big green P.
Yeah, and
football
one of
field.
our people put gas on theirs. I remember
Yeah.
there was a dead cardinal showed up at.
A chicken hanging, painted red, hanging from the goalpost. Yeah, we had some prank. They had some pranks
Yeah.
back then. But yeah, those years were transition years that you don't realize it when you're living through it. But now
Do you
you
know- what I
look
was
back at
gonna
it 30
ask.
and 40 years later, you're thinking that was kind of interesting how things shaped up together. You
Yeah.
know, one thing affected another.
Yeah, and when you're right there seeing it every day, and the kind of people that you have playing, and the types of things, I mean, you're probably getting into specialized lifting now too, probably for different position types, and
Yeah, they are now. They know a lot more about it than I do. I was, you know, by the time football was ended, and I'd not be that much in the off season part of football as
Yeah.
as the baseball. But then I would still be in the junior high off season program.
right.
But for many years we weren't that specialized. Those kids are young. If they could just learn the basic 4 or
Yeah.
5 basic lifts, you know, those young bodies can't take a lot of stress. So you had to kind of take care of those youngsters.
Sure.
But in the high school, they got pretty elaborate with all the different workouts and exercises. It kind of left me behind a little bit on that because I'm out there hitting fly balls and ground balls to the outfielders, you know.
Yeah, certainly. Did you ever play any Madden?
Never did.
Never did?
No.
Man, that's been
I
fun.
heard your show with Coach Harper,
Yeah?
how y'all talked about that, and I thought, I'll have to say no on that deal because I never was a big video game guy, and I didn't get into any of that. I know it's pretty popular, but
Yeah,
never did.
it's,
No.
it's fun, especially when you're raising 3 boys. You can have tournaments and stuff, so it gets pretty competitive. And you get invested in that stuff, man. It's a lot of fun.
But as far as knowing anything about the plays or if they affect coaching, I have nothing about that. I don't know anything.
Yeah. You weren't using video games to
No.
test your coaching theories out on?
No. I was trying
X's
to use
and
my
O's.
own, or pick the brains of guys that knew more about it than I do.
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't hard to find a few guys that knew more about it than me, but it wasn't a video game.
So you said you're playing at least once a week right now?
Yeah, we play in town quite a bit.
So is it a full band deal?
A couple different groups of guys. One group of guys we have called Emmett and Four Wheel Drive, and we play the Elks Lodge and the JJs that are around in the restaurants here. And then another group of guys we're kind of going under my band name, which is called the Southwinds Band. And we're playing tap rooms and things like that, smaller, kind of a no drummer type setup.
Okay.
More, not just straight acoustic, but just kind of a not with a full band, just guitar, bass, and maybe a lead player, mandolin player, something like that.
So you enjoy playing, you enjoy writing, you enjoy the performing part of it too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always wondered all the time I was younger, what would it feel like to be the guy on the stage?
Really?
And I kind of knew what it would feel like because it would feel kind of like it would feel like to be the head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, or assistant coach or whatever
Mhm.
your role is. So I did know what that feeling is like, but I always wanted to be the guy on the stage because I'd be the guy. Hey, can I come up and play a couple songs?
Really?
You know, I'd do that a couple times, and
So it doesn't make you uncomfortable. You enjoy it.
yeah, no, I have no fear of that.
Yeah.
Let's
So that's
go.
the part about it I like the least.
Really?
I don't like no, I don't like it at all.
I like being being the guy on the stage, or at least one of the guys on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why my dream job would be just songwriting. Just write the song. But then you lose control of it if somebody else gets it, right? So you kind of want to do it yourself.
Yeah, you can really. The more sponsorships you get, the more money you start taking in from that. And I can't say that because I know about it. My brother, he did a fishing show
Really?
down in Texas
No kidding.
about, I don't know, 15 years ago or so.
Okay.
And he was doing really good. He's a witty guy and he's a good fisherman, and he would take his buddies out, but they'd bring a camera guy and they'd film the show, and he would put it on Outdoor Channel,
shit.
Texas fishing Texas lakes with Gary Morgan.
Texas
And-
Lakes with
And
Gary
he
Morgan.
would line up his sponsors and get his tackle company. And you know what happened then? The tackle companies, when they sponsor these shows, they decide they can tell you where to fish and who you can fish with.
That's
He
interesting.
didn't like that,
Yeah, I don't know that I would either.
and you wouldn't.
No.
Nobody would like it.
No.
Well, we're not going to sponsor you if you don't take our people fishing and fish where we want you to fish. And so I learned from his experiences about the issues that happen the farther you go into this deal. Again, go watch that Bob Dylan movie,
yeah.
A
I'm gonna
Complete
see it.
Unknown. Go watch that. And it just brought so many things into my mind, and that was part of what it brought in my mind. The experiences my brother had with his TV show. The more you get deeper into things, all of a sudden, other people involved, and the more you lose control. It's an interesting
Yeah, that's
phenomenon that
certainly
you don't
true.
think about when you're thinking about hitting it big.
No. if you could sell your songs and just let people do whatever, would you feel comfortable doing it? If somebody were to pay you for a song?
Yeah,
and you didn't have any control over.
But I'm hearing with the distribution issues, and maybe that'll get straightened out, but I'm hearing that with the distribution issues that the songwriters, the guys getting jobbed worse than anybody. I read a deal that the guy that wrote All About That Bass for Meghan Trainor only made about $5,000 on that song.
Oh,
Think about how big that song is.
that's bullshit.
Probably one of the
because-
top 100 songs in the history of recording.
Well, the song doesn't exist without the songwriter. You know what I mean? So they ought to be probably in the top bracket.
Now, I don't know if he
of-
sold out to the wrong guy. I don't know if he sold
I don't
his
know.
rights improperly, or if he just said, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Yeah,
I don't really know all the background, but
It's not
it
fair.
just seems
He
like the
might have jumped at
songwriters
something too
have
early,
to
yeah.
protect themselves,
Yeah,
and I don't know that there's a good way of doing that right now.
it's a complicated business.
But the business end of it, it's kind of scary,
I hate it. I hate it. It takes the fun out of it.
and that's kind of why I'd rather
Takes-
be the guy on the stage if I'm singing.
Yeah.
At least I get the enjoyment of that,
I enjoy the recording part.
It's fun. I
It's-
put too many hours into it to say I don't enjoy it.
Once it's recorded, I don't ever want to hear it again.
Yeah.
Like, I like the birth of it. It's the idea, the creation of it, the demo, the execution, and then you encapsulate it on an album.
I'm going to
track.
add a step or two to that. It's the sharing and the feedback. I'm going to add that part that I like. I like the sharing of it and the feedback
About the live part.
about the recording.
Yeah, no, that's why I like it better than playing live, because
Yeah.
live isn't a great representation because people are inebriated. It depends on what songs they're hearing, but if you give them an
Yeah.
album,
Oh, I see what you're
they
saying.
can give you feedback on what you've recorded,
Yeah, yeah.
from their own car or whatever. They can actually listen to it.
I enjoy that. I enjoy that too. That
Yeah.
it makes you want to do it again. One gives birth to the another, and it's just hard to get away from it once you feel like you've had somewhat level of success, even if it's self-satisfaction success.
I think the hard thing for me about playing live is that I think I'm a good songwriter, but there's so many people that are better than me. And it's like, how do you get on a stage when there's people like Hendrix and Jimmy Page that have done this, and it's like, how you're doing the same thing these greats are, and I don't know, it gets in my head, and I just think, I don't have a right to be doing this, almost.
I guess you could say that about anything, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, these NFL players. I mean, Jalen Hurts
You gotta
fixing to
step
play
out
the
there.
second Super Bowl. He could say that. He can't compare himself to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He's just got to do day to day, do the best he can. And same way when you and I go out and play, I'm not comparing myself to Garth Brooks. I might do a Garth Brooks songs, but
Garth
I'm not
Brooks-
I'm not going to try to be that kind of guy.
Garth Brooks is really overrated if you think about his just ability. He's not that great a singer. He's just a great entertainer, and he has great songs.
Yeah.
But
And he's an adequate singer. He hits notes.
he's adequate.
To me,
but
if
he's
you hit
nothing-
notes, you could sing.
but he doesn't
And that's
sound
my
like
fault.
he's
I don't
not,
hit notes.
He's not like a George Strait or somebody that's got that iconic country
Right, a Dean
voice.
Martin or an Elvis Presley.
No,
with that
you're not going
voice,
to try and sound like Garth.
No.
You're going to try and sound like a Merle Haggard.
Yeah, that's the kind of guys that I gravitate.
He's
Again,
pop country.
that's kind of like I like Robert Earl King. There's a storyteller, and it don't matter if you hit a note or not. I'm going to tell that story, and you're going to like it because it's going to be the truth.
That doesn't work with Dylan, though, for you.
Yeah, it does. It does now. I mean, not to listen to him.
Well, that's what I mean.
His songs, no.
But, like, listening to Dylan himself.
Yeah,
is-
he's
is
a little
difficult.
scratchier than I would prefer.
So there's a line.
There's a
somewhere.
line. You
Yeah,
need to be
I'm
able to
with
hit
you.
some notes. You need to be able to hit some.
Yeah. Well, his voice was very trebly, very nasally,
Yeah.
and the way he kind of dragged his. But yeah, if you cover his stuff, and that's the interesting thing about producers, is that some people don't have the full vision of a song. They'll have the ideas, and producers can help morph that. And I think producers got a hold of the music a little too tight in the 90s and started basically forming everything to sound like Nirvana. And, music kind of got throttled and the creativity died. It was like anytime you can make money at something, you want more and more and more and more.
And the guys,
Sequels and reboots.
and the guys doing the sponsoring think they have more say. I mean, same thing happened from Nashville on country music.
Oh, 100%.
And when Chet Atkins back in the 60s took over whatever studio that was and started putting strings and background choirs on country music instead of fiddles and steel guitars, it made people turned off. I mean, it's happened. That's happened a lot. It happens more than you think. That's why you point to certain groups that just seem revolutionary. And I think Dylan was revolutionary in his day. I think that Leonard Skinner and that group was revolutionary, getting Southern rock away from disco.
Ooh, I hadn't really thought of it in that context because
Sure.
I wasn't there. But
Leonard Skinner and the Southern rock
Did
kind
they
of
kinda-
rescued music from disco.
Nice.
It was a good option to disco.
Yeah.
And then
'Cause,
about 20 years after that, Hootie and the Blowfish and those kind of guys in grunge rescued music from
Yeah, the glam.
the glam pop.
Yeah.
And it just happens about every 20 years. There's a
Guns N'
revolutionary-
Roses was kind of a weird crossover because they had the glam look, but they were really good. Really rocking. They still had that kind of 70s.
And their songs had structure.
Oh, they were so good.
So such structure. You know, some of those
Tight
groups
structure.
did everything they could to get away from structure.
Yeah.
It was noise. It was head banging rhythm. It was
Yeah.
not structure though. And some of those groups even try to get away from notes.
Yeah.
It was the screaming. I never did listen to those too much. I was too much of a country boy.
Yeah.
But about every 20 years, there's going to be a revolutionary group that rescues us from whatever's eating us up at the time. And I just remember thinking that the Southern rock sound, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, Outlaws, Molly Hatchet, those guys from disco. They rescued us from disco.
I love that. I love that because I love to think of things in history. Everything has context,
Mhm.
and I want to know. The older I get, the more I want to know about my history and my country's history and all of that. But music history is one of those things. My favorite music is before I was born. The experience of the Beatles,
Okay.
of Zeppelin,
Yeah,
what that was like.
yeah.
Like what is your relationship with Zeppelin? Are they an influence to you? or-
No, my influences had to do with acoustic guitars, and it would be Jim Croce. It would be
Yeah.
it would be James Taylor.
So you weren't
Simon
much
and
into the distortion
Garfunkel.
pedals back then.
No,
No.
Simon and Garfunkel and acoustic America
Yeah.
for a rock group. My favorite all-time group of ever is Poco.
Who is Poco?
Who is Poco? And I get that reaction a lot. Poco was the remnants of Buffalo Springfield.
Okay.
And when Buffalo only lasted about 2.5 years.
Yeah, very short lived.
And when
yeah.
Richie Furay and Jim Messina and Rusty Young when Buffalo Springfield broke up and Stephen Stills went there and Neil Young went there, broke up the Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Richie Furay and the boys started Poco, and it was a Southern California country rock sound before the Eagles and contemporaries with the Byrds.
Okay. So
and
we're talking
Van
late
Parsons and that
60s.
group. Late 60s, middle to late 60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 68, 69-ish.
Poco. P-O-C-O?
Yep. They were first called Pogo, but then they were get sued by the comic strip writer,
Mm.
and so they changed it to Poco. And they recorded and toured for over 50 years. And they're starting to now lose their original members in the last 3 or 4 years. But their first bass player was Randy Meisner, and he went from Poco to start the Eagles.
Yeah.
And when he left, then Timothy B. Schmidt replaced him in
Oh,
Poco.
yeah, that's right.
And then Meisner
He replaced him in Poco.
in Poco, and then he also replaced Meisner
In the Eagles. I was going to say, I knew he replaced him
And
in the Eagles.
still with him.
I didn't know he replaced him in Poco, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, still with them.
and Jim Messina was instrumental in that group. And he didn't really want to be a touring musician. He wanted to be a producer and a behind the console guy.
Yeah.
Until he got in with trying to set up and fix up Kenny Loggins, and they became Loggins and Messina. And were very successful over about 9 albums, about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But Jim Messina was in Poco. Rusty Young was a steel guitar player, Hall of Fame steel guitar player. And he was the only constant original member to the very end.
I'll check them out.
Yeah, Poco was my go-to acoustic guitar with high harmonies
Yeah.
type group.
Did you ever listen to any Black Crowes?
No, not really. No,
No.
not as much on the rock and roll side as the
No. I
Countryside.
get you kind of
country-ish.
you're a little more country. I'm a little more rock and roll.
Yeah.
Different backgrounds, but
So the rock and roll I would know would be stuff that's on the radio, not the
Yeah.
deep album cuts, and not the one group reminds you of another group.
What did
cut.
you think when the grunge thing came in?
I had no reaction to it.
Yeah.
Didn't affect me in any way.
Yeah. Was it
Nirvana and
interesting?
stuff like that?
Well, just
The Seattle
as,
scene and all that.
well, just just as a coach, as somebody who's witnessing trends, and did you see a pretty big wave of
No.
that influence?
No, a little bit. I mean, I'd see a T-shirt now and then. in
Farmington was
school.
kind of far flung back then.
Yeah, I didn't see too many of it. I'd see a whole lot more Hank Jr. stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, that changed over the years. But you saw different trends with the kids and what they were into over the years.
Yeah,
You know, what kind of, like, can you think any of the stuff that kids were into that was just seemed weird? Like fidget spinners, was that a thing
Yeah,
in school for a while?
saw some of those. I'd have to give that some thought. I guess the biggest thing would be cell phones. There's nothing been bigger than that. I mean, everything pales in comparison to that.
Yeah.
I guess before that, Walkmans.
I was probably the last generation that I think we started getting them our senior year probably.
I think
but they were-
Walkmans and personal headphones before that.
Yeah, before that.
But you didn't see
Probably.
them on everybody. You didn't see them on everybody in the school cafeteria like you see everybody doing this now.
No, it would have been after I graduated. Cell phones weren't ubiquitous when I graduated. Not everybody had them.
Well, that was a fad that you got to point to first. That's the biggest thing I've seen. Nothing has swept the nation like that.
And that was before texting. Texting didn't even come on for a couple years later. Now you just take it for granted that
Yeah.
that's the primary form of communication
Yeah.
for most people.
Yeah, because you can deal with it when you want to.
Instant, yeah, exactly.
It's a wonderful
Yeah.
convenience.
The phone call is dead.
Yeah.
Do you still have a hard line?
No,
No?
we haven't had that for many years.
Dad, you need to get rid of that hard line. Nobody else has it.
Well, I mean, it didn't bother me when it was $15, $16 a month. But I looked at my phone bill one time and it was like $38 a month, and I'm going, when did this happen? I canceled it the next day, and I walked in there, and the lady said, I don't blame you. That's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
They didn't even have any
What do you
negative
say?
reaction.
Well, I mean, you think about cable. I did my college, like my senior project on the cable industry and like better alternative for that, which would be a more fragmented version. Because back then you would just have to pay these exorbitant amount prices for hundreds of channels that you didn't ever watch, right? So your cable bill was high, and you only watch 3 or 4 channels. So it's like, can't we get this kind of prorated to what I watch? Well, that's what we have now, but now your intellectual properties are spread amongst 7 different streaming apps. So if you want to watch all your stuff, well, you're getting what you wanted, kind of the a la carte, but now it all adds up to what you were paying before.
Yeah, there's no real
Right.
there's no real bargain there.
It's kind of just replaced. The market's kind of replaced itself.
You know.
It's been a weird changeover that, my kids won't ever know about that transition. They don't remember a world without the internet.
No. And what's crazy is when they're sitting here 35 years from now, what the changes they'll be talking
Oh,
about.
goodness.
I remember TVs going black and white to color. I'm that
Do
old.
you really?
I'm that old. I remember.
Was it a gradual thing? Like just a few people had
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
And I remember my grandmother was the first in the family to get a color TV, and so my mom and dad would work on Saturday mornings, but it was a cool deal to go to grandma's house.
Really?
We would watch color TV, watch cartoons in color.
Oh man.
That was a big, big deal. That was a special deal. And so we came through that. Again, like we said before, we have lived through incredible transitions and
Yeah.
changes that nobody in the history of the world got to live through.
No.
I mean, I guess somewhere they discovered fire. I guess somewhere they discovered the wheel.
Yeah.
But there's not
But
many.
if you put it on a chart, the progress of humanity, it kind of went like this.
Kind of went like that, and it's kind of scary how
It's real
fast
scary.
it's going
Well, what do you think
with
about
the computer chip.
What do you think about AI?
It's kind of fascinating. I don't know much about it, and I haven't studied much
You haven't
about it.
played with it?
I've just played a little bit with some background erasing apps. I think that counts.
Sure. Yeah.
And I put my little grandson in the midst of a tiger den, and he thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I put our band, instead of on the little stage that we were at, I put us in a big arena.
Nice.
So I think that counts.
It's fun.
That's AI. I
It's
think
fun.
it's got some fun to it. I think there's some
does.
scary stuff to it.
Well, that's what I mean.
And I know what's coming down the road is going to be scary when I see my image in a place that I wasn't there and not doing that activity. That's a scary proposition.
How are we going to do politics in 2028 when there's AI videos that look as real as anything, and you can make it look like it was from any era? You know, this
It's a scary thing. I don't have an
20-year-old
answer to that.
video resurfaces of whoever it is.
Yeah, when
And
they
it'll
shoot
look
down
real.
that candidate because he's been caught in a certain situation that he
Right.
shouldn't be, and so many people believe it, and so many other people
Right.
they don't know whether to believe it or not, but they're not going to take a chance.
Right.
It's a scary deal, Brad. It really is.
Politics has gotten scary in this country.
Yeah.
And a lot of friendships ruined over it. I hate that, man.
Yeah,
I
I do
really-
too. I do too. But you know, I go back over the past 50 years, and it's been basically a two-party system. And I know there's been third parties and
Yeah, but
smaller, but it's
for the
been a
most
two-party
part, it
system.
is. Yeah.
But if the red party was so great, then the blue wouldn't have won.
100%.
And then they had that for 8 years. And if the blue party was so great, then the red wouldn't have won. And this bouncing back and forth,
Well, it's a pendulum
red, blue,
swing.
red, blue,
Yeah,
kind of keeps it in check.
it does.
And
I agree.
if there's a guy in the office that we don't like, it's not going to be forever.
Right.
Let's do our best to work together to get through until
We
the next
can't
guy
change
gets
the
next
fact-
guy or girl
right.
gets in office.
Right.
And so, I don't know. I don't put as much panic into the political scene as maybe some do. Oh
Yeah.
my God, so and so got elected. We're gonna all blah blah blah. I just don't go that far because I know from past history. You know, we had 8 years of so and so. We had 8 years of Bush, 8 years of
Mhm.
Clinton. We had Ford. We had all the different successions, Reagan, and it
What
changes.
was the first political, like, presidential campaign that you remember?
Johnson Goldwater.
Really?
I was probably in second, third grade.
Yeah.
Barry Goldwater got beat by LBJ,
Yeah.
and it was a big deal because I was in Texas and he's a Texan.
Yeah, he is.
You know, I think Goldwater was like Arizona or somewhere.
hmm
But yeah, that's the first big political campaign I remember when I was a kid. That goes back a ways, doesn't it?
Well, here's he'll date me.
What was yours?
Being a young boy here, my first one that I was really aware of was the Bush Clinton Perot,
Oh yeah, and Ross Perot was a Texan too.
and I also
And he
remember.
siphoned off a lot of votes.
But my parents would let me watch Saturday Night Live
Okay.
for a while, or at least some of the political stuff, and heavily satirized. You remember Dana Carvey?
Mhm.
I mean, man, was it who was playing Clinton back then?
Would that be?
Phil Hartman.
I was
think.
thinking of Chris Farley. I wasn't a big Saturday Night Live guy after they didn't have Chevy and Dan and the original
Oh, the old school
crew.
Yeah.
That's when I watched it.
Yeah, you remember
vividly.
back when it was in its
Yeah.
youth. Yeah.
Belushi and those. I watched it back then pretty much every week, but after that, no. I didn't. But I did watch a little bit of the show last night. Did you see it?
No,
50 years of SNL music.
no, they've had a lot of great
Well,
guests on there, man.
But they told stories about that. And I'm sure you could get it rebroadcast on some app.
Okay.
I'm sure you could Hulu it or
So
something.
it's 50 years of
SNL
music. Okay.
And it wasn't just a concert videos.
Right.
It was telling a lot of stories
Cool.
about the artist and about
Yeah.
the skits and about even the politics of who they brought on.
Mm,
You should watch that. You'd enjoy it.
I
Being
would.
a SNL guy,
yeah.
but I watched about an hour and a half of it. It's
Well, I
pretty
mean, I haven't watched it in 25 years, but
good. Oh, okay. I thought you.
I there was a period when I was young that I watched it a lot, and then it just stopped being funny. Got too political.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of, I guess, an old guy, but I don't. If it's profane, I don't think it's funny.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
fair.
a big Eddie Murphy fan.
right.
If that's what the people think's fun, and so I kind of got away from Saturday Night Live on the profane stuff. I mean, I
Understand.
know they didn't have hardcore language on TV.
Right.
But a lot of that stuff I didn't think was funny. I'm thinking that's kind of tragic. That's kind of tragic if you think that's funny.
Well, we've gotten very cynical as a people.
Yeah, that's.
I would love to see us
I
be
wish I
hopeful.
could say that I'm not, but I'm sure I am.
I want to be hopeful. I want to be,
Yeah.
but just I don't know. I don't feel like many other people feel that way. People want to just be down about everything and focus on the negative. I'd really like to see this country unite.
It's hard to do because control is a big word. And people that unite have to be willing to give up some control.
Mm-hmm.
And giving up control
Yeah.
means another guy has his way.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Just listening
That's
to
hard
someone
for
else and
anybody
hearing
to
them
do.
out. Yeah.
And so I think that's the when you run into issues, it's about somebody wanting to be in control of somebody else.
That's that coach wisdom right there. You're dropping on us.
Well, it's something I've observed and keep observing. But
You seem like an observational guy. When you go out in public, do you people watch?
no, I don't. I try not to invade. I
No.
feel that's kind of invasive if I just watch people.
You don't glance
I try to
around?
notice.
I mean, you don't have to have.
I don't want to
I'm
be
not saying you
oblivious
got
to what's going
binoculars
on.
out. I'm just
I don't want to
saying.
be oblivious to what's going on around me, but I don't sit and watch people because, for one, I don't think, well, nothing that person do is original. There's not one problem that guy has that I don't have.
Yeah.
Nothing he does is original. There's no such thing as original problem.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to watch there. I'm not a rubbernecker. I don't want to see somebody's car wreck or anything. No.
Let me ask you this. You get any guitar from any period in history. What is the holy grail of guitars? Whose guitar?
Wow.
Is your guitar guy?
I think for the influence it had and for the fame it has would be, and Marty Stewart right now owns it because it was given to him by the wife of the original Jimmy Rogers. It's an old Martin guitar. And the Singing Brakeman, the old Jimmy Rogers from the 20s, had that guitar, and when he died, his wife gave it to Marty Stewart. Marty, is that right? Marty Stewart, the country guy. Marty,
That's your world.
yeah, Marty Stewart.
Okay.
That would be the guitar I'd pick up. And my old grandmother's guitar that hangs on my wall looks kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of a figure eight. It's not a big bodied dreadnought like my Martin or whatever. It's got kind of a figure eight.
Yeah.
It's kind of a smaller guitar, and it sounds really hollow and tinny.
Yeah.
But when you hear an old Jimmy Rogers recording, you're going to hear that guitar. And that would be the one I would pick up. I would, if I had my hands on that one,
Yeah.
it would be that one. Just an old Martin, that old Martin acoustic guitar. What about you?
Jimmy Page's 76 Les Paul. I basically got it. That Les Paul over there was my dream guitar as a kid.
Okay.
Jimmy played it live. He recorded several albums with it, and I just thought it was the coolest thing.
I'm thinking about making that my next build project.
Yeah, we got to talk about you building guitars.
Les Paul. I haven't built a Les Paul.
But talk about how you got into building guitars.
Well, a few years ago, I looked at this old guitar in a pawn shop, and it just was I call it a POS guitar.
All right.
It was one that just looked terrible, it was beat up, nobody would play it.
Yeah.
And so I bought it for like, I think $15.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a flea market, not a pawn shop. It was
Yeah.
a flea market. Maybe the one in Prairie Grove. And I took it home, and I took it apart. It was like a Strat style body.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it apart, and I sanded it down to bare wood, and I spray painted it with just common spray paint from the hardware store. And I put a Razorback sticker on it. I could show you a picture of it, but a Razorback hog, I put a sticker on it, and then put it back together, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just basically wall art.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of neat.
and I gave it to let's see, who'd I give it? I gave it to the manager of JJ's on Steamboat, and it's hanging up there right now.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of fun, redoing old guitars.
Okay.
And so I did another one, and it's hanging at Foghorns down there by Baum Stadium. Put a baseball hog on it. And I got another one hanging on the wall at JJ's in Springdale. And I started doing these old guitars and refurbishing them and taking them apart, putting them together. And I thought, well, this is nothing but woodwork. I wonder if I could build one.
So you're doing guitar art.
Yeah. And I started giving them to all the places that we play. Places that, just a thank you for supporting live music and giving us a place to do open mic and open jam.
Yeah.
And
that's
not
cool.
necessarily paying gigs, but a place to play in town.
Yeah.
Get feedback on original material. Not owe them anything because they're paying me $300, but just a place to
Right.
play. And these people that support the local people by giving them a place to play, I want to give them something to hang on the wall. And so that's how I approached them, and they said, "Well, sure, yeah, thanks." So I've got several hanging around town.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And then I started, well, I wonder if I could build one. So I built I took oak and I built a Stratocaster out of oak. I made it about a quarter inch.
Wait, like you carved it?
Well, I shaped the wood. I glued the wood together, made a plank, made a body, and then cut it out, sanded it down.
Yeah.
And contoured it and everything, routed out the cavities. I bought a neck. I've been buying necks. I can buy a neck cheaper than I can build one. I can buy a neck for $75 to $100.
Yeah.
A decent neck.
But you're building the body.
I'm building the body.
That is wild.
And so I built.
How did you learn how to do that? Watch YouTube or something?
Yeah, well, you can do that. I mean, you can do that, but
Whew.
just looking at people. There's a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube videos on building guitars.
So
Like
you
everything
just got
else.
into doing this.
Huh?
You just got into doing this?
Yeah. So I built this
That's
Stratocaster.
so cool, man.
And I got it, and the grain of the wood's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You would really like it if I had it here. And after that, I built a couple more Stratocasters, and I gave them to friends that were looked like they might appreciate it. And then I built myself a hollow body Telecaster thin line.
And these are like working, playable electric guitars.
I built myself a 12-string. I took the shape off my Martin. Yeah, I built 12-string. I got it.
So you're
in
doing all the electric and everything?
Yeah. And I'm looking for my where's my shared photos. I built several Stratocasters and Telecasters. I built my last build last summer was a 6-string, and I have it at church, but I put a Les Paul neck on it.
Really?
I found a Les Paul neck for $45. I bought 2 of them, and I put a Les Paul neck on an acoustic guitar.
What's
And
that like?
I made this guitar out of pallet wood pine.
Get out of here.
Just took the pallet apart, took the wood, and built a guitar out of it. It plays good. I mean, I got it sitting on the altar at church. I leave it at church so I don't have to travel with a guitar every Sunday.
That's incredible, Coach.
I wish I was better on my.
You're a wild man. You
wish-
didn't warn me about this.
Oh, I didn't know you didn't know that.
Well, I knew you had done some. I think you had sent me a link on something, but it was you use a Mac, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't pull it up.
Here they are.
How can people find you? Like, do you do custom orders?
Right now I'm doing ukuleles. No, I haven't really got into that. There's the acoustic I built with the Les Paul neck.
Man, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
There's my process pictures. I built a ukulele bass out of cedar. Process.
Who's
picture.
got the guitar with the Les Paul neck?
I do. It's at church. There's my 12-string.
I'd love to get a hold of that sucker sometime. Did you build the 12 string?
Yeah. I got one more I'm going to show you here, and then I'll call it good. That's my one of my favorites, Telecaster Thin Line.
Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett played one. Conway Twitty played one. Tab Benoit plays one. A lot of people are playing those hollow body thin lines.
What was the best concert you ever went to?
Well, lately I went last summer to the Doobie Brothers up at the Amp.
First time you ever seen him?
Yeah. I also thought the Niall Horan concert was great.
Yeah.
But back in the day when I was in college, I'll never forget Charlie Daniels' band at Six Flags Over Texas.
Charlie Daniels.
Yeah, that was probably the most
Real deal.
excited I
But-
was ever to go to a show.
Yeah.
But I saw lots of groups back at when I lived in Arlington, was in college. It was nothing to go to Six Flags and see somebody on a Friday night. I mean, B.J. Thomas and Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, and I think I saw Chicago there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just lots of big time names, groups back in the 70s. And I was in college from 74 to 79. So if they were big,
Man,
they played.
talk about a fun time to be
They
in
played
college.
at Six Flags Over Texas, and those concerts were awesome. Beach Boys. I can't even start to list.
Beach Boys?
Skinnerd. Yeah, the Beach Boys played there.
Skinnerd.
Yeah.
Man.
I can't
What
even
an awesome
think of
time.
the best concert I ever been to because I saw so many good ones out there.
Man, that's crazy. We got to talk about the family, man.
My favorite concerts was Robert Earl King.
You like the Robert Earl King?
I do.
Yeah,
I mentioned him several times.
you
He's
bring
been
him
up
up,
here
yeah.
several times. He's retired, and now he's back on tour, and he's coming to Eureka this spring. I guess we're going to go see him in March, me and a buddy. About the family?
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
Well, we had 2. We had twin girls.
Yeah.
They were born in '88, so they're making their family now. Amberly has 3 daughters, and she lives not too far from here in Farmington. And Chelsea and Corey have a daughter and a son. They live up around Tawnytown. Chelsea,
5 grandkids?
5 grandkids. Chelsea's a veterinarian in Tawnytown, and Amberly works for Heineken through Walmart. Works for Heineken.
Yeah.
Works with Walmart. They're both doing good. They're all the sons-in-law are awesome, and
Yeah, all right, that's good.
all the sons-in-law are awesome, and
Check.
yeah, all the
Sons-in-law.
families. The families just really seems like we're really doing good. I guess we're going to meet down in Hot Springs and go to the horse races this weekend.
Nice.
So we're excited about that.
You remember being a father, that first moment?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And having twins is when you don't have any.
But,
You go
yeah.
from not having any to having twins is
Yeah.
just unbelievable. But I knew from
Yeah, that's a
birth
different
which one
experience.
was which.
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
never did think
Never
they
did have a problem
have
with
a
it.
problem. No, it was
No.
never a problem
Day
knowing
one.
knowing
They ever try
which
and
girl
trick you?
was which. No, they couldn't do it.
No, they,
I know what they look like
yeah.
individually.
Yeah.
And
Personality's different.
oh yeah, personalities are quite different.
Yeah.
In
Isn't that
some
funny?
ways, but they are definitely sisters too.
Oh, yeah. Certainly.
But
So what's it like being a grandparent? That's
I
gotta be-
call it the best gig going.
Yeah. You think so?
I'll guarantee you.
You get to send them back home.
Well, that's true, but we're just so blessed by having them all here
Yeah.
that
Yeah. You
not
truly
only
are.
it doesn't hurt to send them back home because I know I'm going to see them in a couple days. I could go over there and see them any day I want to.
Yeah.
They're going to come over here every couple days.
That's a blessing.
We pick them up from school twice a week. I pick up little one up here in Springdale once a week, and we had all 5 of them together this weekend. You know, we just do that a lot. So
Yeah.
we're not like some people that have to travel a long way to see the little ones, and you know, you see them every 4 months, and they've gotten
Yeah.
so much big. They're different people by the
That's
time.
fantastic. No, that's
Yeah.
great that you have
No,
that.
we're very blessed in the fact that they're all right here. So
Man, that's really
we're
cool.
pretty tight on that. It's fun to be Pawpaw and Cece.
Yeah. I
That's the
bet.
best gig going.
It is. It really is. I'm not there yet, but I don't want to be there yet. But
Well, it'll happen when it happens,
I
and
know.
we never did even talk when the girls were growing up. When
You
they
didn't-
got married, we never even talked
you
to
didn't
them
even think
about
about
anything.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
it'll happen when it happens. But
Yeah.
then it started happening, and it was awesome.
Well, you remember Matt Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's a grandparent now, and he graduated with me.
Wow.
It's like people my age are grandparents now, and I'm
We did everything later, so we're a little
Yeah.
older than that.
yeah. So
Our
so
oldest
we.
grandchild is 9, and the youngest one is 3. So everything in that realm.
My oldest is 14, so I hope we're a ways,
You are.
quite a ways from that.
You are.
Yeah.
But they're all right here local, and that's a real blessing in so many ways. Every once in a while, we'll go to their church on Sunday morning and worship with them, or they'll come to ours and worship with us, and that happens to enough to where people in each other's churches know each other's families. So that's kind of cool when
That's
people
cool.
in our church say, "Oh, there they are." You know, there's little ones again, and that's fun to be that tight together.
You got any favorite in the Super Bowl? Do you care?
Well, I always root for the NFC.
Always.
Oh,
You're
I don't-
NFC guy.
Can't really explain it. I'm a Cowboy fan,
I'm
but
an
I always
AFC
root
guy.
for the NFC.
I'm an AFC guy. I get it.
Even if it's the stinking Packers, I gotta root for the NFC.
All right. All right. So go Eagles.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to root for the underdog there. I'm sure they won't be favored.
It's not popular to go against the Chiefs right now.
But I'm not an Eagles fan. Definitely not an Eagles fan. But I always root for the NFC. So that tells you I'm rooting for.
You know we've got bald eagles around here.
Yeah, I've been seeing some of your posts about it.
Nuts, man. Yeah, I mean Stillwell went out weekend before last. We saw 11 that day, right over us. I mean, it was incredible. I took a GoPro out there, had video cameras, and we didn't even get 1 second of footage. We were so excited. we were just looking at these birds, and we forgot to turn the cameras on. But Zach got some really good pictures.
You probably see quite a few turkeys around too
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
out here in the country. I saw your herd of deer out here.
Oh yeah, the deer everywhere. They'll get up close to the road. Oh, they'll get right in the backyard. The dogs don't even bother.
This area is just growing so crazy. You just fear for where you're going to find pasture space and where you're going to find wildlife and stuff like that. I was out on a ride today with my bicycle, and I have an e-bike, and I like the e-bike on the county roads because I can go a little faster. I can go slower on the dirt roads, but I can go a little faster on the the busier county roads. But
How
it
does the e-bike work exactly? You're still pedaling it, right?
You're still pedaling. It's a pedal assist, so you can set it to 5 different levels of assist, and I usually keep it on the lowest one because that makes the battery last all day.
Yeah.
But if I'm riding on double springs, I might bump it up a level and get a little more help. And so instead of going 10 or 12 miles an hour, I might go 20 or 25 and get off the busy road sooner. But then when you get on the dirt road,
Man,
or
you're
county-
booking it.
Yeah, that's pretty fast on a bike. But
It's real fast.
but when you want to get away from the cars, you feel like you can
Right.
ride a busier street and not be as scared
Sure.
on these shoulderless highways out here. But I rode all the way down Double Springs to Goose Creek, all the way down Goose Creek to I don't even know the name of the little dirt road that cuts across to Little Elm.
Goose Creek.
Not as far as Viney Grove, but there's a dirt road that
Highland Church.
I don't know the name of it.
No.
I don't think it's that one.
Okay.
But anyway, it cuts across to Little Elm, and then I rode Little Elm back down to Clyde Carnes, back down to Buddy Elkins and Clyde Carnes, come back around by the school. It was about a 15-mile loop, but when you get out in the country on a bicycle, you just seem to see more wildlife and
Yeah.
critters, and it's pretty good around here on county roads that 11 or 12 o'clock in the midday because there's not that many cars.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Try to stay
think
away from
traffic would be an
Try to
issue.
stay away from the school hours.
Lord knows you could ride anywhere you want in Fayetteville.
Yeah,
They got those bike lanes going.
and we ride those.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we'll take our bikes and ride to those,
Yeah.
and then ride them. So it's a great area for cyclists.
If you're into that stuff, it really is. It's a
it's a good way to get outside for an hour, get a little fresh air, and some exercise. If I take my normal bike, I get more exercise. But if I take my e-bike, I go a little faster.
I'm sold on the e-bike personally.
I am.
You up for playing a song?
Yeah.
All
Would
right.
you like to?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh man.